everyone. My name's Carly and I'm the marketing director at Branch Basics. And I'm sure you know this is Allison Evans, one of our co-founders.
Hello.
Today we wanted to talk a little bit about Allison's fertility journey, what it looked like to navigate through her PCOS diagnosis when she was in high school, and then really just kind of what made the biggest impact on her health as she started to try to conceive naturally and now has 2 daughters. So we're going to kind of walk through her entire process, and she's going to share what that looks like or what it looked like for her. So Allison.
Love it. I'm so excited.
So we kind of wanted to start with like your health history when you were younger, when you started your period, when you got diagnosed with PCOS, and the treatments that you were put on that were conventional. So we can start there.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, I'll start by saying I confess I am on the bathroom floor. I'm sorry, I just have to say
and we're wearing matching shirts in different
and we are wearing made to label matching shirts. It is still kind of a little, well, not the throes of, but the end of quarantine. And so summer camps were canceled. So I have decided to host a summer camp with my toddler's teacher and some of my friends at my home. And this is the quietest place in the house. So excuse that. But I'm excited to share with you guys some high level, I say high level because this story could tend to get long. The road has been pretty convoluted and full of lots of details, but I definitely feel like there are some kind of checks along my past 15 years that can help just explain what I've been through and the healing that I have found. And I'm hopeful that it can help you or someone that you know, considering that I think, 1 in 10 women now are struggling with PCOS. And
I just read somewhere that it's 1 in 8.
1 in 8. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think 10 million women a year in the United States. And of course, when someone has PCOS, we know that that's a hormonal imbalance. And so it's affecting way more than just, that alone, and usually can lead to trouble with fertility. So all that to say, my story can't really be understood unless we know the real full picture. And that starts with 6th grade, when I had my first period, and it never came back. And so at the time, that was not a concern for me. I was just so excited that, 1, I could check the box of having started my period like all my other 13-year-old friends. But then I didn't actually have to deal with it again. But fast forward to high school, my mom, of course, was getting concerned. We went and visited a fertility specialist here in Houston. And I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I actually had what he considered the worst case he had ever seen. I had cysts all over my ovaries. I was put on birth control and essentially told that there was nothing I could do about my PCOS. I remember specifically asking.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
What did you have, besides not having your period, did you have symptoms of PCOS that are typical?
No. And that I actually remember my doctor saying, usually the PCOS patients I see, this is awful, but this is what he said, are female, fat, and 40. And I was like, okay, well, I can check one of those. I am a girl. So no, I did not have anything except for no period, essentially. I mean, I had some acne and there were really no other symptoms at that point. So it was pretty surprising. I didn't have, I think it was facial hair or something. Didn't have that either. So did not have the typical symptoms. I was put on birth control and essentially told to be on birth control indefinitely until I wanted to have children. So I was also told that I would not be able to have children naturally, that's just not something that was in the cards for me. And it didn't really hit me that hard at the time, which must have just showed my naivete and my age in high school. So fast forward to college, I'm still on birth control. I don't even think about PCOS really. I'm now having my period regularly because of birth control. My skin's clearer, everything's great. Like, birth control is the best thing. It's giving me my period back. It's predictable. It makes my skin clear. Completely in the dark. So sophomore year, so I guess this was 2 years after I started the birth control, I came down with this mysterious pain, essentially starting in my shoulders, traveled down to my back. This was the beginning of sophomore year. By Thanksgiving, I was registered as a student with disabilities because I could no longer sit through class. I was seeing the top arthritis specialists, neurologists. I was rolfing, getting acupuncture, chiropractic care, steroid injections. I was on muscle relaxers, painkillers, antidepressants, sleeping pills. I was like a walking pharmacy. And this was, I guess, by the middle of sophomore year, that was my status. Doctors were throwing out MS, and it was just a really dark, scary time. Of course, the whole PCOS that was not even on the radar. My whole focus in life now was not like the next, sorority gathering or even final exam. Like, it was about getting sleep and going a day or an hour really without pain.
Allison, my brother and Allison were friends in college, and he actually told me a story about y'all were on like a ski trip, maybe that like Christmas break, and
yeah,
you had like plastic bags just full of pills that you were taking.
I love that Jason remembers that. Yeah, that's a memorable thing when you're in high school. I mean, when you're in college and like people are more concerned about like drinking Keystone Light, and I'm like, but yeah, no, it was definitely like survival time during that period. And that is when my Aunt Marilee came into the picture. She's my actual aunt, and not just an endearing phrase. And at the time, I didn't know her very well. She had been nursing her son back from really traumatic, drastic health issues, using food as medicine, cleaning out their home and creating a clean environment for him. All of that language and world was like so unfamiliar to me, and honestly a little bit strange. And at this point though, I had ears to hear her because I was at rock bottom. I had exhausted all of the medical treatments and diagnoses, that really were not even agreed upon. And I was continuing to have more and more pain. So this is really when my life completely shifted. I would never return to my old conventional mindset or diet or just way of viewing the world, because what Marilee was about to present to me was something that gave me hope and eventually healing, like not very long after. So what was different about her approach is she began by asking me, what are you eating? Give me a 3-day diet diary. What oils are you consuming? Have you recently moved or remodeled? Do you use pesticides in your home? And what are you using on your body? So basically what you're putting in, on, and around your body has the ability to provide an environment for healing, or it has the ability to basically strip that from you and to keep you from enjoying this natural propensity that our bodies have to overcome and to heal if given, a clean environment and diet. So she wasn't as concerned about my diagnosis. She didn't really care about the labels that the doctors had given me, whether it's chronic fatigue, mono, fibromyalgia, hypermobility, MS, PCOS, and I'm throwing out all these things to her, and she's like, I'm sorry. So at first I'm thinking, no way, like this has to do with like my Splenda, my 100 calorie packs, my herbal essence shampoo, my VOC paint, like no way. But then this other voice in me was like, wait, these are things that I actually can control, because so far the only things that people have asked me are about my family history, basically genetics. And I later found that from Marilee's perspective, and what we now believe, is that genetics can load the gun, but your diet and your environment can pull the trigger. So I may have had, and I believe I do have, some predispositions to whether it's my joint pain, connective tissue disorder. I now know that I have Lyme disease, but those things, those genes can actually be de-expressed by the choices that we make every single day. I can't help but just say that I basically cleaned every single toxic thing out of my environment as much as I could. Cleaned my diet, changed a lot of my foods to whole foods based, meals. real food essentially, and got rid of my artificial flavorings and synthetic fragrances, the things that I was using, on my body and around my body in my home. But it wasn't until I went to live with Marilee that summer that I really experienced true healing. It was 8 weeks of living in an environment that was completely free of these toxins and eating food that was completely free of artificial ingredients. And I would say by the end of the summer, my pain was 95% gone. So I had gone into this journey, especially that summer, with the goal of getting out of pain. I was not thinking about PCOS. I was not thinking about what my ovaries looked like. I needed my pain to be gone. I wanted to get off drugs. And that's what happened. So my husband then encouraged me about a year later to go back to my original fertility doctor that I had seen 6 years prior. I did a sonogram, and he had been too busy to see me that day, but he literally runs in to the office. I will never forget this. And he's holding the sonogram from high school next to the sonogram from after I lived with Marilee. My cysts were gone. So whether PCOS can be
incredible.
Healed, reversed, whatever, this is my story. And my story is that I wasn't even trying to heal it, but in the pursuit of living this clean lifestyle and with the ultimate pursuit of getting out of pain, it's a good reminder that when we do things to address one symptom in our body, our entire body cannot help but heal and realign and balance. Same as if we're helping a child or a husband or ourselves, and in efforts to do that, they're having issues, we're cleaning out our entire home, your entire family is benefiting. Right. So that is what's amazing about, here, I'm not here saying, okay, get off the medical journey, get off of these medications, but you can, whatever you do in your home to clean out your diet, to clean out your environment, can be done alongside of those conventional treatments and that conventional path, and can only help and support you and whoever else you're living with.
That plays too into, like, Kelly went with you that summer with what she thought were no symptoms at all. And she left with all of these smaller symptoms that we just kind of write off as everyday: period cramps, itchy eyes, joint pain, etc. Those were gone for her. So it's a perfect example of, like, when you are taking those stresses away from your environment and away from your body, like things you might not even realize are healed. So
yes, Kelly is the perfect example, and most people can relate more to her story for sure. Like I said, my cysts were gone. Still had not had my period on my own. So I should make it very clear, when I started working with Marilee, she immediately explained to me that birth control was not part of the plan, that it is a synthetic hormone, same as these, cleaning products and PVC shower curtains and plastic food containers. They are all endocrine disruptors. So getting rid of those xenoestrogens or foreign estrogens was imperative in like Marilee's care for me.
And also the nutrients that birth control strips from you as well, that so many people don't realize. You're
so depleted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden here we are trying to get pregnant a month after we get off the pill, and can lead to lots of things, including colicky babies, because we're so depleted. So I knew that my body was healing. I knew, oftentimes the reproductive system of a woman is the last thing to heal, because it's really a system that we don't need unless we're creating life. And it's kind of like a protective mechanism. And so a lot of times it's one of the last things to heal. And so I knew that if my cysts, hundreds and hundreds of cysts, had disappeared, that my body was really working internally, just even at a deeper level than I could have even understood. So it gave me even more excitement and confidence in the path that I was choosing. And at this point, eating a healthy diet and avoiding toxic products was just a lifestyle. It wasn't a diet. I didn't feel restricted. I felt so much freedom, because it's like, I knew what was good for me. I knew how my body was going to heal. And I knew that if I continued down this road, that my period would come back. I just had confidence in that. And that was the path that my husband and I both chose instead of doing fertility treatment. So fast forward about a year later, we are married, and I wake up one morning and I literally just had my period. I had no symptoms, no PMS. it was like better than our wedding day. We were so excited because it just meant that we could have kids. I mean, it was something that I was told would never happen. And it meant that the efforts that we had put forth, my husband had really joined the lifestyle bandwagon as well, were really fruitful. So we were not quite ready to have children. I wanted to make sure my cycle was going to be pretty stabilized and regular. It had always been really, well, I say always, it was naturally longer. So we wanted to see if, given a few months, that it could shorten. And so we weren't quite ready. And then when we were, I think it was about 1.5 years or 2 years later, we got pregnant like immediately. I want to say that I did work with a fertility specialist in California, and really what that looked like, he is an osteopath. We never really met in person except for once. He would I would cut like hair samples. So we did like hair tissue mineral analysis, HTMA, and found that I was pretty depleted in certain minerals. And so I highly recommend, if people are really struggling with fertility, to find a fertility specialist. Does not have to be a medical doctor. For me, my opinion is that it should be someone that really understands the connection between diet and environment and is going to prescribe whole food-based supplements. Because a lot of times deficiencies can really be a key in healing, like you need to target those. So I was definitely on a supplement program, but other than that, it was food, it was making good choices. It was not a strict paleo or vegan or anything like that. It was real food for me. So there wasn't, once I got pregnant, there wasn't much that I changed. I started doing more like, I did some raw liver smoothies. I wanted to get my hemoglobin up. Started doing celery juice. This was like before the celery juice craze. Marilee was telling me my sodium levels were low, and so that was the best way to get your NaCl up. And so I started doing celery juice. There were little things I did, like I didn't fill up my car when I was pregnant with gas. My husband would do that for me on the weekends or after work. I avoided going into really highly fragrant stores. Like I really missed Anthropologie, but there were just too many candles during the time. So just little things. I just was always very aware that there was life that was inside of me and that every day of a pregnancy matters. And, I think that you can never really be too careful. I don't think there's any reason to be fearful at all when you're pregnant, but I think that you can choose wisely and just prudently avoid things if you can. If I needed to fill up my car, I would do it, but I would choose to try to avoid those scenarios. Overall, my pregnancy was really easy and great. I attribute that a lot to the fact that I was preparing my body ahead of time. And that's something that I highly recommend. Like, I mean, we do a lot of prep in life. We even prepare a nursery for a whole year, like in anticipation of a baby coming, or we save up to get a car, whatever it is. But like a lot of times we forget to prepare for pregnancy and not just prepare for when the baby arrives once you are pregnant. And so the changes, the decisions, the choices that lifestyle choices that you make pre-conception can actually affect the baby's health, the baby's brain development, more so than the choices made during pregnancy. So not to say it's not all important, but just know that if you are thinking about getting pregnant soon, takes two to tango, husband as well, that making healthy choices and really strengthening the sperm and the egg and the body that's going to be growing that baby is really important. We were not planning on a home birth from the beginning. We were not thinking, honestly, it was all about like, can I get pregnant and how's the pregnancy going to be? And then as far as how that baby was going to come out, I had never thought about it. Like, but I remember being about 3 or 4 months pregnant thinking, okay, I need to start really addressing this. I knew that I wanted to see a midwife. I knew that the way that they treat and care for the mom and the baby was more of the route that I wanted to go. And we should definitely link to the like the home birth story, I believe, article, Carly, because it really, I think it does a really good job explaining, pat on the back there. But I do a good job explaining why I chose a midwife. I think a lot of people are just, they're wondering, and if they tend more towards natural healing and natural methods, it just makes more sense. And so I kind of outlined that there. I don't need to go into that here. And then as far as why we chose a home birth, again, that is outlined really in detail because there were so many different reasons why we chose that, but it just felt like the most comfortable place for me to labor. I wanted to avoid a lot of the things that the hospitals do in terms of intervention. And I had felt at this point that the medical community had not had the answers for me when I needed them most. And so for me, it didn't feel as much of like a place that was super safe or a place that I could relax. But for other people, even people that want to do natural births and not use medication, a hospital to them is actually their safe place. That's where they can relax. And that is the key in natural labor. If you can't relax, you're going to stall and that baby's not going to come out. And so I think that's my biggest advice for choosing where to have a baby, is just where you feel the most comfortable and the most safe, because I could give all sorts of reasons why home births are extremely safe. And so that's definitely not a deterrent for a home birth. But yeah, both of my babies actually were born on their due dates. We had both of them at home. And I have Sloane's water birth story written up, but it was an incredible experience. And I believe that the things that I did during my pregnancy absolutely prepared me for the births that I had. They were, I didn't lose too much blood. I had done a lot of like raspberry leaf tea during my pregnancies to prepare my placenta and to tone that area. And I think that there's no way to know how my births would have been different. My pregnancy and my labor and births would have been different had I not done the things that I did. But I can't help with just knowing what we know now and hearing so many birth stories and comparing those that have the moms that have taken the time to take care of their baby, to take care of themselves during pregnancy and make these choices, versus the ones that are just pregnant and kind of continue to live their lives and eat the standard American diet. And there's really no comparison for outcomes there. I mean, I just hear it time and time again. So that should be just encouraging.
I guess too, like for a couple of questions. One, for those who maybe already aren't having health issues, but are considering having kids, in the next few years or soon, and, that's a conversation they're starting to have, what would you say are the best resources? Because you obviously know so much, you've been through it all. About raspberry leaf tea, about where did you find like most of your resources? And what would you suggest to women and, couples that are moving towards that path and maybe like aren't having health issues outright, but are starting to consider having a baby?
The doctor that I worked with, the osteopath, actually has a book called The Brighton Baby. It's really long, but I find that it's one of the most incredible resources. I mean, I actually have the PDF on my computer and I literally do like Command F, like find, all the time with that book, because it goes into everything from cleaning out your environment, which is of course, a lot of that stuff is on our website. I mean, that's the biggest thing that you can do. If you are thinking about getting pregnant, if you are pregnant, if you are a new mom, whatever it is, getting those toxins out of your environment is the number one step. That is the number one thing, that first thing we did when Marilyn and I worked together, and I made sure they weren't going to come back. It's a finite process. Once they're out, they're out. You can make, the choice about what you want to bring into your home, and then to take it further, put into your mouth. And the easiest way to go is to clean out your home. Right. Because sometimes dietary changes can be really hard. But so that's the number one advice, is don't feel like you have to go out there and buy all these, air purifiers, organic mattresses. I mean, this stuff is wonderful. But getting the things out of your home first, getting those toxins out. I mean, pesticides are one of the biggest disruptors of our delicate endocrine system, more than any other chemical. So there's no place for any of that inside your home if you are thinking about getting pregnant soon. So getting out, those things. And then I am all about tests, not guess. So we can Google fertility supplements and whatever it is we've been diagnosed with. We can spend all this time trying to figure out how to address those things. And I think that that can be helpful sometimes. What works for your cousin's sister, though, likely will not work for you. So finding someone you trust, like I said, a practitioner that understands this connection between diet and environment and the body, fertility, endocrine system, would be really, really helpful in my opinion. And whether it's a hair tissue mineral analysis, blood work, whatever it is, basically making sure that there aren't some really vital, key, basic nutrients that you're deficient in. Right. And then on the other hand, making sure that you're not really high in heavy metals. Right. So I think a common misconception is, oh, I need a detox before getting pregnant. Well, a lot of times it's not the right time to detox. A lot of times that's the time, even if there are things to detox, which there always are, it's actually a time to build your body up and to prepare your mineral reserves. But I, for instance, had a high levels of strontium, and we were able to find that out through my hair analysis. I would have never known that.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
Heavy metal.
Okay.
A lot of times you can get it, like if you're working with like old television sets. I mean, I don't know how I got it. That's the point. I mean, it's something that I would have never known had I not tested. So again, right. Test, not guess. Work with someone that can do, a simple HTMA is a few $100s, can give you a really good read on your mineral levels and heavy metals, and whether you need to focus on detox first or focus more on building up. And again, not just guessing. So
right. For sure. So I think we can wrap up soon, but I know you've mentioned kind of like what to look for in an osteopath or potential doctor. Like for people that feel like they're starting from, nowhere when looking for a practitioner, what do you recommend that they start?
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question. I've just been really blessed to have Marilee, and then Marilee led me to who I was working with. So I believe that there's a site, a website that's like, I think it's like functionalmedicine.org.
Yeah, we can always use that in the resources below.
Yeah, because I can make sure on that, because a girl I work with in Fort Worth, her name's Taylor Dukes, and she's amazing, but she does have a waiting list. She's a family nurse practitioner, but she is all about the environment and diet and testing and not guessing. And I think you have to work with someone in your state. I think they have to be licensed in your state. So like she can do remotes, but only within Texas. So this won't apply to a lot of people watching this, but she told me about, I think it's functional medicine, something where you can actually type in your area and find doctors in your area. And really it's just about picking up the phone and calling and saying, hey, look, I'm focusing on a clean lifestyle. I want to see if this is the right practice for me. My husband and I, or whoever, we're trying to get pregnant soon. And I'm wondering if you guys, work with people, helping them clean up their diet and their environment, and doing a basic like mineral, heavy metal test, just to make sure things are in check before we start conceiving. I mean, that's literally what I would say if I was getting on the phone with someone, because I would want to feel them out. I would want to feel out if they understand the body's connection to our everyday choices, versus if they're just more of a conventional minded, like fertility specialist. And that's one more thing I will say on this topic. I don't necessarily think that if you're struggling with fertility, or if you're not struggling at all, you're just about to start trying, that you need to work with someone that specializes in fertility. I think that it's more important. Again, if you're having real like fertility issues, then yes, you need a specialist. But I think it's more important to work with someone who understands the big picture and can do basic testing. But the body is a holistic machine. Everything is connected. And so that dietary and environmental factor is key. It would be for me if I was trying to find someone to walk me through the season to prepare for conception.
And so for that same question on doulas and midwives, like how are you vetting? Like, was it a reference, a recommendation, or was there certain things that you were looking for during your research to find the best for you?
Mm-hmm. Doula, that's more just like who you feel like is going to support you during labor and mitigate pain. So more the midwife, because it's kind of between, you're going to either find a midwife or you're going to find a doctor. So once you've chosen that you want to do the midwife route, I personally wasn't like completely on the same page with my midwife in terms of like dietary things. I definitely was like a next level in terms of cleanliness. Like she was very impressed with what I was doing. But for me, that wasn't a big factor in choosing a midwife. I wanted to make sure that she was experienced. Right. She had done hundreds of births. She was, could answer all my hard questions about what would happen in certain situations. So I guess to answer your question, for the midwife, choosing a midwife, it's more about, to me, who had the most experience, who could provide a safe and gentle and amazing experience for me, who I personally jived with. I mean, the midwife should be someone that you really feel all the good feelings, you know, because you're getting down and dirty and personal with this person, and you want to make sure you feel 100% comfortable. So I guess all that to say, for me, it wasn't as much about health with my midwife. It was more about experience and knowledge in the birthing process.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's super helpful.
In fact, I mean, I was pre-diabetic during both of my pregnancies, and she was totally open to me not drinking the orange drink to do my glucose test. And she was like, sure. I mean, everyone else that comes in here does that, but if you want to prick yourself, 4 times a day and record your blood sugar levels, I'm happy to look at that. So those are the things that are important to me. I was kind of choosing my own path within, her practice. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure she was open to me avoiding the early sonograms. Like I only do the 20-week anatomy scan. That was a big thing for me. And then, like the glucose test and avoiding the eye serums when they're born. And usually midwives are very open to all those things, but those are the main questions that I was asking her.
Yeah, that's awesome. We should do an article about that at some point.
I just did a podcast with Carly from Frolic and Flow, all about this, the birth and choosing a midwife, why I did home versus hospital. So if you want to check that.
For sure. I think her podcast launches in a couple of days, so we'll link that when we launch this video. Cool. Awesome. Well, this was super helpful. And again, like anyone that has questions, I know that this is a really popular topic and something that a lot of people care about. So comment below, reach out to us on Instagram. We're always willing not to give medical advice, but to give our experiences and any resources that we can provide. So yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful. Not too much rambling. Like I said, lots of different kind of facets to my healing journey. And then of course I could do a whole podcast on just like pushing a baby out. So there's a lot here. So yeah, just like Carly said, reach out and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
For sure. And then we can always do more videos based on the topics y'all are interested in.